Welcome everyone to the 60 Seconds of Stoicism fireside chat. Didn't want to be a liar, so we actually have a fireside here, a little mini fireplace for you guys. So true fireside chat. What we want to do is just kind of talk tonight about some of the questions that you've had for us. Questions and ideas on things you want to talk about. So we wanted to bring those up tonight and kind of address some of them. Please, if you have questions, feel free to leave them in the comment section below. My background is in education. I've been in education for 20 years. I have my degrees in elementary education, educational studies with a concentration in child development, a degree in special education, and currently working on a degree in developmental psychology. So that is my background. And then my wife, Melinda, who you've heard in most of the podcasts, she has been a teacher and educator for over 15 years. So we kind of want to look at some of these questions and see if we can give out some advice and answers on anything with stoicism, life, education, child development, you name it. So go ahead.
So I have a question that was actually given by a coworker who is in education as well. It was a really good question that I think a lot of us deal with. How do we deal with the effects of students' home life? Because we are bound by laws and regulation of what we can and cannot do. Though we are not parents, though we are not the parents, how do we, the village, support the family dynamic, even though they're going through a hard time at home? There's things going on at home.
Sure. Well, I think one important thing we have to realize is that you are the family dynamic at school. And I know a lot of teachers have thrown out the "I ain't your mama" or "I ain't your daddy" with that, and I get it. It's funny for it, but they often spend more time with you than they do their parents.
Yeah.
So they're going to get a representation of what's good and what's acceptable and what's needed to succeed in life, even if they're not getting it at home, if they're getting it from you. So I think that's very, very important. I am a big proponent on modeling everything you say. You should never give advice, you should live advice. And that's the important thing. So when the child can see you acting out those positive emotions, those positive interactions with your fellow coworkers and with the students, they're able to see what that looks like and they have that model. What happens often is children start to see you more as not only their teacher, but they start to see you as their example for kind of how they should be in life for that, if that makes sense for it. Now, sadly, a lot of them will have terrible home lives. Things that are going on that is none of their fault. Things are going on due to maybe abusive situations at home, or maybe poverty, or maybe even siblings doing things to them or against them that can hurt them. They need to know that they have that comfortable respite, that place to come where they're cared about and they're loved and they're respected and they have good examples around them. That can do more for them than calling up a phone call to a parent and arguing with them over that. Often parents will shift the other way. As soon as you start saying, "Hey, there's a big problem here, you guys need to fix this," it could shut things down right away. I'm not saying you shouldn't talk to parents. Absolutely open communication. They may not even realize that something's going on that is aversive to their child's growth and development until you bring it to their attention. But if that wall has been put up where they just don't care what you're doing or saying, obviously, if it's something that's illegal for that child, then we need to bring in some other higher authorities to deal with things like that.
Definitely.
If it's the child just looking for some positive social interaction, some positive examples, then you have to model it for them. So I don't want to just throw that out there and not give any examples of modeling. Every child should be addressed every day by name in the classroom. I think that's just a rule to have. That could be a lot of teachers do that upon entering the classroom. They'll stand there and say hi to each student as they come in. For younger kids, maybe it's like your morning meeting and you make sure to include every one of their names in a song, or you give them a chance to talk about something they did the night before. Like that does so much more for the development of a young child than sitting down and tracing triangles. So when you're making sure that you're including all of them in it, they're seeing I care and I matter in this environment. So it's not me. I'm not the issue. There's things going on at home that's not good for me and that I don't like. But here I'm really loved and respected. So I'm not the issue. It's the situation that's the issue. Otherwise, the child can really reflect that back on themselves and say, I'm the reason that this is happening. I'm the reason my teacher doesn't like me. I'm the reason my parents don't like me, or my home situation is bad. And that's horrible. We never want a child to feel like that. So again, we have to stop giving advice and start living the advice, showing them an example, including those things in. For older kids, it's a little bit different. It's just being an ear to hear. A lot of schools have counselors already on board that can deal with those things. But if a child comes to you and says, I want to tell you something, listen. It's super important to listen. There are so many things between the lines when a child speaks, especially an older child, that you can pick up and say, hey, there's something serious going on here. And then be that positive role model for them so that they know I have an outlet to go every time. A lot of children who, especially teenagers who unfortunately get into that dark area where they start thinking about ending things, often say, I have nobody to turn to. And so that's sad. If they know they at least have some trusted adults in their lives, including teachers and educators and administrators that are willing to listen, then that opens up that avenue that I'm cared about. So,
Yep, and that's that keyword trust right there.
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, if they don't trust you, they're not going to talk to you. Why would that? I mean, I wouldn't trust a therapist. If I didn't trust a therapist, I wouldn't talk to them and tell them the hard things I'm going through. So, you have to have that back and forth where they really genuinely care about you, and also setting those structures and those boundaries too in the classroom, because sometimes the worst part of the home situation is there's no boundaries, there's no structure, it's a free-for-all. They really feel unseen and unloved. But when you say there's rules here and I expect you to follow them, and then I'm going to give you the most positive reinforcement when you do on those things, or support you when you need some help achieving those things, it makes them feel cared about. And we've talked about it before. Sometimes our most difficult students are the ones that become the most attached to us, and they just, like they want to learn more and know more, and they want to, spend time with you. So I think it's
Yeah,
very important that your school doesn't become the home life, but school becomes the positive example when you can't control the home life of a student. So,
very good.
yeah.
We have a second question. What does Stoicism say about the dynamics of a structured home?
Okay, going back to that structure.
Yeah.
Okay, awesome. Very good lead in. So, yeah, so Stoicism is very structured, but it's up to the individual to structure it. We think about, like Seneca. Seneca had his things that he did all the time at certain times of the year. He started off the new year with, plunging into ice cold water just to help make himself feel alive. And now lots of clubs do that yearly for New Year for that.
Mhm.
Having routines about the time you get up in the morning, the time you meditate, the time you journal, and keeping those routines. And the reason those are done is because it's much easier to remember that at 6 o'clock every night I pull out my journal than I should get my journal out today at some point.
Yeah.
If there's a time dedicated to it, that puts structure into the home life for the child. So that would be kind of the stoic take on it. I also feel like children should have a lot of say in that structure, because then it gives them ownership of it.
Yeah.
So let's say you're introducing something to your child. Maybe we're going to go for a walk every night, a big stoic practice, a time of reflection. Do you want to do it at this time or this time? Do you want to go here or there? And it's not going to matter much to you because you're up for it either time or either place. But for them, it says so much. It says, I have some ownership over these things in my life. And you're slowly building habits for them. They're building habits for themselves, positive ones. And so I think that's big. Got to give choices, got to keep to a structured schedule that they have their input on. And then again, they have to see it modeled through you. Um, you can't tell your child to brush their teeth every night and then you never brush yours. So it's so hypocritical. They're going to want to stop doing it and not be part of it. You can't tell your child we're going to go for a walk every night and then never follow through on it, because then they're let down and they stop to believe it, and they just don't want to put any time or effort into it. So it has to be modeled, and it has to be partly their idea. And I think if you do that, then you start gradually pulling in those stoic beliefs of this is good for me. It's something I should do daily. It's something that's going to make me a better person as they see it modeled. Well,
Very
very
good.
good.
All right. And third question, what is a way to introduce Stoicism to my young child or teen?
To young child or teen.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, I think it could be the same thing for both of them, and that's not a cop out. It's something very important. Journaling is super important. We talk about journaling every time. Doesn't matter if you're a stoic, doesn't matter if you are a Christian or an atheist, it doesn't matter if you're a politician or a non-believer in structured society, we call that an anarchist. Doesn't matter what it is, journaling is useful in every walk of life. In fact, it's become so useful that a curriculum we recently adopted for our school has now written it in every day. There's actually journal time every day in school because it's such an important practice. So for young children, journaling should always be done picture based for them. As they get a little bit older and they can start writing words, great, let them write sentences. But they can start drawing pictures in their journal and then ask them questions about it. Like, what did you draw today? Oh, that's cool. That's a blue car. Have you seen a blue car before? Like that. And they, oh, yeah, I saw a blue car down the street. They're recalling something that they drew on there. And that's a great way to start practicing that recall for journaling that eventually you'll do as an adult, where you can look back on your day and say, okay, what are the things that were important to me? What are the things that are sticking in my head that I can put down on paper? For teenagers, it is a super important outlet to be able to do this. Parents, I'm gonna probably step on some toes here, and that's okay. When you give a journal to your child, that is their journal. And I know that the absolute 100% want is going to be to read it, to make sure that they're safe and they're
Yeah.
okay. It is a mega violation of trust for it. In fact, a lot of teenagers won't even do a physical journal. They'll try to do it on their phone, put it under some kind of encryption so that it can't be seen. But they need to have that outlet to talk to. Those are their thoughts, because journaling is you speaking to yourself. They're not speaking to you, they're speaking to themselves. Now, there's other ways to talk to them about the hard things they're going through. A lot of communication, providing time every day for them just to speak with you, being non-judgmental when they want to talk about stuff, modeling that for them, talking about your day. And I'm not talking about dumping your very adult problems onto your teenage child. What I'm talking about is telling them, I'm struggling with some stuff too. Humanizing yourself for them so that it's okay for them to humanize themselves with you. And then let their journal be their journal. All you really need to ask is your journal almost filled? Is it almost full up? Because now it's time to buy you another one. So let me know. And let that be their outlet for being able to talk. Sometimes friends can't provide the same comfort as a pen and paper can, just honestly, for it. So I think that's a really good way to get them in. Also, introducing things like that, the schedule routine, like walking at night together as a family, meditation, telling your child, hey, for 30 minutes, or 30 minutes, for 30 seconds right now, when you become a master, 30 minutes, but 30 seconds right now, we're going to close our eyes and we're going to think about all the good things that happened today, and let's just talk about them, Or we're going to close our eyes for 30 seconds and we're going to talk about the things that we could have done better today. Like Daddy got really mad when somebody cut in front of him in traffic, and he yelled, and he feels really bad about it because it wasn't that person's fault. They were just trying to get over. And the child's like, oh, okay, I get how this is done. So as they grow up and develop and it gets stronger, then they're able to do it more on their own. So very, very good question for that.
Yep.
Awesome. One other thing that I wanted to talk about tonight before we wrap up, and as you guys give us more questions, and we do have a lot more questions, we're kind of just introducing the fireside chat tonight, and this might become a forum just to talk about regular things as well. But one thing I want to talk about is people feel like Stoicism has to be a perfection, and it's not a perfection. We are able to take parts of Stoicism and apply them to our lives right away. And then there's some things that can take years to master and come to the point where you feel like this is, I'm really good at this and I use it as a priority in my life. So don't be afraid to mess up. I've had people tell me I've tried the Stoicism a little bit and it just doesn't work for me. It's just too hard. I can't do it. So, okay. Well, I mean, thank you for being honest with me. I wrote a book called The Octad about 8 different Stoic methods to living your life better. And people are like, it's too hard. I just can't do it. It's too much.
Yeah.
Okay. I understand that. But is there at least one or two things you can take out of there to make your day better, your life better? Yeah, of course there are.
Yeah. There's always
Yeah.
one or two things that we do automatically that we don't even realize that we already do.
Yeah, absolutely.
When it comes to Stoicism,
it's kind of like one of the things in the book is read 8 minutes a day.
Yep, there
okay?
You go.
If that's the hard thing that you can't do, you need to start looking at time management. Or maybe you just really don't want to read, which is sad. But then you'll say, but I've been on my phone for 2.5 hours. What were you doing on your phone? Reading the whole time. So take that time, 8 minutes of that, to devote it to something that's really going to push your wisdom and help you develop as a person. So We talk about 8 minutes of exercise, which could be just a quick walk.
Mm-hmm.
8 things to give away over the course of 8 days, where you find something in your room and say, do I really need this? If it's trash, throw it away. If it's something that can benefit someone else's life, give it away. And it helps to really declutter your life. So
Doing something for someone else.
doing something for something
Yeah.
else. Yes, absolutely. That doesn't take a lot. We are such big thinkers that we talk ourselves out of doing things.
Mm.
So, like, I'm going to do something for someone today. I really don't have time to go paint their house. No, of course you don't. You have a job and a family to take care of. Maybe you can kind of help with that eventually, do on weekends or something. But can you go over and bring them some donuts for breakfast, or just give them a phone call to see how they're doing,
Mm.
or walk to your neighbor who's elderly and take their trash down to the street for them? Like, those things are seconds to
Yeah.
do. They're just mere seconds to do, but they have such a huge impact. So don't feel like you have to be perfect at it. I am not perfect at Stoicism. I will always be a student of Stoicism. So I'm learning constantly how to use it, and reading what the masters have done and applying it to my life through faith, and being able to walk on that. So, yeah,
Mhm.
just another thing that I've talked about with several people and wanted to bring it up here tonight. So, anything for the audience before we go?
Nope, I think we covered everything.
Awesome. Thank you guys for our first fireside chat. Please leave your questions or comments in there, things you want to talk about. If you agree, great, let me know. If you disagree, great, let me know. And then we'll be back soon with another fireside chat. Thank you guys so much for watching. We
Thank
appreciate
you.
it. Please subscribe. And until next time, Semper
Super Studios.
Studiosus.